What if I told you that a single sentence, just a few simple words, could transform you from struggling financially to experiencing unlimited wealth and abundance? Would you believe me, or would you dismiss it as just another empty promise in a world full of get-rich-quick schemes? I understand your skepticism. After all, we've been conditioned to believe that wealth requires decades of hard work, lucky breaks, or special connections. But what if everything we've been taught about creating wealth is fundamentally backward? What if the true secret to abundance isn't about what you do, but about what you declare with absolute conviction? But before we begin, please hit the like button and let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the globe. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our future videos. My own journey from financial struggle to extraordinary abundance didn't happen gradually. It happened in an instant, the very moment I uttered a specific declaration with complete conviction. Not after years of grinding, not after waiting for the perfect opportunity, but in that single powerful moment when I finally understood the creative power of my words. Has this ever happened to you? You've worked harder than everyone around you, followed all the conventional financial advice, yet still found yourself wondering why. Prosperity seems to elude you while flowing easily to others. The truth, which Joseph Murphy revealed decades ago, but few truly understand, is that words are not merely sounds that disappear into thin air. They are seeds planted in the fertile soil of your subconscious mind. And just as surely as an apple seed grows into an apple tree, the words you speak with conviction will manifest in your physical reality. Stay with me until the end of this video, because I'm going to share exactly how the power of a single declaration can activate the infinite intelligence within you to create wealth beyond your wildest dreams. What you're about to discover might surprise you, as it contradicts almost everything modern society teaches about financial success. Most people underestimate the creative power of their words. They casually say things like, "I can't afford that," or "money is always tight for me," without realizing these statements are powerful commands to their subconscious mind. Every time you speak, you're not just communicating, you're creating. Every declaration is a seed that, once planted with genuine feeling, must eventually bear fruit in your experience. What if I told you that the wealthy elite have understood this principle for generations? That while the masses focus on working harder, the truly prosperous focus on declaring and embodying wealth consciousness first. The declaration I'm about to share with you isn't just positive thinking, it's a fundamental shift in your relationship with the infinite supply that surrounds us all. If you found value in these wealth principles, hit subscribe to join our community of conscious creators. The most profound revelation in my journey came when I realized that the subconscious mind, this magnificent creative force within us, operates with unwavering impartiality. Unlike your conscious mind that analyzes, doubts, and questions, your subconscious simply accepts what you impress upon it with feeling and conviction. Think of it as the most fertile soil in existence. This soil doesn't analyze the seeds you plant, asking, "Is this seed worthy? Does this person deserve a harvest?" It simply receives whatever you plant and brings forth accordingly. Plant seeds of lack by declaring, "I'm always broke," and that soil faithfully produces financial struggle. But plant seeds of abundance by declaring, "I am wealthy," and that same soil begins working immediately to manifest prosperity. This realization transformed my relationship with money completely. For years, I had been planting the wrong seeds without even knowing it. I would say things like, "I hope to be financially comfortable someday," or "I'm working toward abundance," not realizing these statements were actually reinforcing my current state of lack. The hidden truth, the revelation that changed everything, was that my declarations needed to be made from a place of present certainty, not future hope. The day I looked in the mirror and declared, "I am wealthy," as an absolute fact, even while my bank account showed otherwise, marked the beginning of my transformation. What makes this mental shift so powerful is that it creates what Joseph Murphy called a bridge of incidents, a series of seemingly coincidental events, opportunities, and connections that begin forming almost immediately after your declaration. When you declare wealth with absolute conviction, you don't need to figure out how it will manifest. The infinite intelligence within you begins rearranging circumstances, inspiring ideas, and bringing the right people into your life. My journey wasn't about forcing circumstances or manipulating reality. It was about aligning my inner state with the abundance that already exists all around us. This alignment doesn't happen through wishful thinking or desperate pleading. It happens when you make a declaration from a place of such complete certainty that your entire being resonates with it. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by exploring exactly why most people's attempts at using declarations fail. Understanding this crucial distinction will save you years of frustration and accelerate your path to the wealth consciousness that makes manifestation effortless. The impact of this mindset shift goes far beyond just financial abundance. When I began living from this new state of consciousness, I noticed improvements in my relationships, health, and overall sense of purpose. The journey wasn't just about accumulating money. It was about stepping into my fullest potential and embracing the abundance that was always my birthright. If what I'm saying resonates with you, write "Abundance is my birthright" in the comments below. Here's where most people make the critical mistake that keeps wealth at arm's length forever. They use phrases like, "I want to be wealthy," or "I will be financially free someday," without realizing these declarations actually cement their current state of lack. When you say, "I want wealth," you're telling your subconscious mind that you don't currently have it. When you say, "I will be wealthy," you're pushing abundance into some distant future that never arrives. The revelation that changed my financial destiny forever was understanding the immense power contained in those two simple words, "I am." These words are the master key that unlocks the creative power of your subconscious mind. When you declare, "I am wealthy," instead of "I want wealth," you're not making a wish, you're establishing an identity. You're not hoping for a future condition, you're claiming a present reality. This distinction might seem subtle on the surface, but the impact of this mindset shift is profound. Your subconscious doesn't recognize time, it only knows the present moment. When you declare, "I am wealthy," you're giving your creative mind a blueprint to manifest, not a wish list to dream about. Look around at your current circumstances, the amount in your bank account, the quality of your possessions, your living situation. All of these are simply the harvest of seeds you've planted through previous declarations and feelings. This universal law operates with mathematical precision. Just as gravity doesn't care if you believe in it or not, this law of consciousness doesn't require your understanding to function. If you're surrounded by financial struggle, it's because you've previously sown thoughts, feelings, and declarations of limitation. If abundance flows freely in your life, it's because you've sown declarations of prosperity. The harvest always matches the seed. This law cannot fail. Behind the scenes of visible reality, there's an invisible realm of cause and effect where your conscious declarations are translated into material conditions. Most people look at their current circumstances and then form their beliefs and declarations accordingly. They see limited funds and declare, "I'm broke." They see mounting bills and declare, "I never have enough." This approach has the creative process completely backward. The transformation begins when you dare to make your declarations based not on what your eyes see, but on what you choose to create. This requires the courage to stand in apparent contradiction to your current reality, to declare abundance while surrounded by lack. This isn't delusion or denial. It's the fundamental principle of creation that underpins all manifestation. I'm curious, have you ever noticed how some people seem to remain stuck in financial difficulty despite working extremely hard, while others attract prosperity with apparent ease? The difference isn't in their actions, but in their declarations, the seeds they're consistently planting in the fertile soil of consciousness. If you're beginning to see how your own declarations have shaped your current financial reality, type "I see my patterns" in the comments. Now we come to what I consider the most crucial revelation in understanding the wealth manifestation process. Something that explains why so many people can repeat affirmations for years without seeing results, while others experience dramatic transformation almost immediately. The difference lies in one word: feeling. Your subconscious mind doesn't respond to empty words, no matter how many times you repeat them. You could chant, "I am wealthy" 1,000 times while brushing your teeth each morning. But if those declarations lack emotional resonance, they're like seeds thrown on concrete, unable to take root and grow. The catalyst that brings your declarations to life is the feeling that accompanies them. When you declare "I am wealthy" while simultaneously feeling the confidence, security, gratitude, and freedom that wealth brings, you're no longer just speaking words. You're transmitting a vibrational blueprint that your subconscious mind must manifest. This is why one single declaration charged with genuine feeling outweighs thousands of mechanical repetitions. It's not about quantity, it's about the emotional intensity that accompanies your words. When I made my own breakthrough declaration, it wasn't after reciting affirmations for months. It was that singular moment when I declared my wealth with such conviction that every cell in my body resonated with the truth of it. The alchemy of transformation happens when your declaration breaks through the barrier of intellectual concept and becomes emotional reality. At that moment, something shifts in your energy field, what Joseph Murphy called the feeling tone of your consciousness, and your inner experience begins to magnetize corresponding outer circumstances. Think about times in your life when you felt absolutely certain about something. Perhaps you knew you would succeed at a particular endeavor, or you felt complete confidence in a decision. That unshakable inner knowing, that feeling of absolute certainty, is exactly what needs to accompany your wealth declarations. This explains the paradox that confuses so many spiritual seekers and manifestation enthusiasts, why some people can visualize prosperity for years with no results, while others seem to manifest abundance effortlessly. The difference isn't in the words or even the visualization techniques. It's in the depth of feeling that accompanies them. Subscribe now to discover more powerful declarations that can transform every area of your life. Your journey toward wealth consciousness isn't about perfecting your affirmation technique. It's about cultivating the genuine feeling of abundance right now, regardless of external circumstances. When you can genuinely feel wealthy before seeing physical evidence, you've discovered the secret doorway to manifestation. Let's explore the fascinating reason why most people find it difficult to generate authentic feelings of abundance when their current reality shows the opposite. Understanding this psychological barrier is essential for breaking through the invisible ceiling that's been limiting your prosperity consciousness. If you've ever tried to feel wealthy while staring at an empty bank account, type "the feeling challenge" in the comments below. The hidden mechanism that determines whether your wealth declarations succeed or fail lies in this critical insight. Your subconscious mind doesn't actually hear your words at all. It hears the feeling beneath them. This explains the frustrating contradiction many people experience when their affirmations seem to produce the opposite of what they're declaring. When you say, "I am wealthy," while simultaneously feeling the anxiety of unpaid bills, the embarrassment of financial struggle, or the fear of an uncertain future, your subconscious receives mixed signals. The words say prosperity, but the emotional vibration says poverty. In this internal conflict, feeling always wins. Your subconscious will respond to and manifest according to your dominant feeling state, regardless of the words you speak. This revelation transformed my approach to wealth consciousness. I realized I needed to become an emotional method actor rather than just a script reader. Instead of mechanically repeating affirmations, I began immersing myself in the complete sensory and emotional experience of already being wealthy. When I declared I am wealthy, I simultaneously felt the lightness in my step that comes with financial freedom. I felt the calm, steady heartbeat of someone who knows their future is secure. I experienced the quiet joy of giving generously without calculating the cost. I embodied the dignified posture and relaxed breathing of someone who never worries about money. The breakthrough dimension of this practice is that it engages your entire nervous system, not just your intellect. Your body doesn't distinguish between an imagined experience and a physical one when the feeling is authentic. The same neurochemicals are released, the same neural pathways are activated. When you genuinely feel wealthy while making your declaration, your entire being aligns with that vibrational reality. This insight reveals why visualization techniques often fail. Most people approach visualization as a mental picture show, seeing images of wealth without embodying the emotional reality. But the masterful manifestors understand that effective visualization is primarily a feeling exercise that happens to include images, not the other way around. The evolutionary psychology behind this process is fascinating. Your brain evolved to prioritize emotional data over intellectual concepts because emotions are directly linked to survival. This explains why trying to think your way to wealth while feeling poor is like trying to drive with one foot on the gas and one on the brake. Let's explore the practical methodology I developed to generate authentic feelings of abundance even when surrounded by seeming lack. This emotional alchemy technique allows you to bypass the normal psychological barriers and access genuine prosperity consciousness regardless of external circumstances. If you've ever noticed how your emotions influence what shows up in your life, type "feelings create reality" in the comments. The emotional dimension of your wealth declaration isn't just helpful, it's absolutely essential. Imagine the difference between planting a dry, dead seed versus planting one that's alive and vibrant. Both may look similar on the surface, but only one has the potential to grow. Your declaration of "I am wealthy" must be like that living seed, soaked in sensation, warmed by conviction, clothed in genuine feeling. When I coach people on wealth consciousness transformation, I often use this metaphor. A dry, intellectual affirmation is like trying to start a fire with wet matches. You can strike them against the surface 1,000 times, but they'll never ignite. However, when you wrap your declaration in authentic emotion, it's like pouring gasoline on those matches. The whole thing bursts into flame. This emotional dimension isn't just a psychological trick, it's the actual mechanism through which manifestation occurs. Emotion is the energy that penetrates the barrier between your conscious and subconscious mind. Without it, your declarations remain trapped in the intellectual realm, never reaching the creative workshop where reality is formed. Speaking of this workshop, let me share a profound insight that completely changed my understanding of how manifestation unfolds. Your subconscious mind is literally the womb of creation, a sacred space where everything in your life is first conceived and developed long before it appears in your physical experience. Just as a child grows invisibly in the mother's womb for 9 months before birth, your financial abundance develops in the darkness of your subconscious mind before it manifests in your bank account. This invisible gestation period is what confuses most people. They make their declaration once, then look around and say, "Nothing's happening," not realizing that powerful forces are already at work beneath the surface of awareness. The architect doesn't expect the building to materialize the moment the blueprints are drawn. There's an entire sequence of events that must unfold, preparations to be made, materials to be gathered, foundations to be laid. Yet all of these activities follow naturally from the initial blueprint. Similarly, when you impress the blueprint of wealth on your subconscious through emotionally charged declaration, a sequence of events begins unfolding to bring that blueprint into three-dimensional reality. This revelation completely transformed my approach to manifestation. Instead of anxiously watching for immediate results, I began trusting the process. I understood that my job wasn't to figure out how wealth would come. My job was simply to plant the seed through emotionally charged declaration, then allow the infinite intelligence of my subconscious mind to orchestrate the perfect unfolding. Now, I want to explore the mysterious bridge of incidents that forms between your declaration and its physical manifestation. Understanding this bridge will help you recognize the signs that your prosperity is already on its way, even when your outer circumstances haven't yet changed. If you've ever experienced a time when things seem to mysteriously align in your favor, type "divine orchestration" in the comments. The fascinating paradox of this manifestation process is what happens in the gap between your declaration and its physical manifestation. The moment you declare, "I am wealthy," with genuine feeling, something profound shifts in the invisible realm. Though your outer world appears unchanged, your bank balance hasn't magically increased overnight, your bills haven't mysteriously vanished, the creative process has already begun behind the scenes. This invisible dimension of manifestation is what Joseph Murphy called the workshop of your subconscious mind. In this sacred space, your declaration sets in motion forces that begin rearranging circumstances, creating opportunities, and drawing the perfect people and situations into your life. It's like dropping a pebble in a pond. The ripples begin moving outward instantly, even though they may take time to reach the shore. The breakthrough mindset shift occurs when you realize you don't need to see immediate external evidence to know that your declaration is working. In fact, demanding instant proof often disrupts the very process you're trying to accelerate. The caterpillar doesn't constantly break open the chrysalis to check if it's becoming a butterfly. It trusts the transformative process unfolding in darkness. What makes this creative law so remarkable is its complete impartiality. Your subconscious mind doesn't evaluate whether you deserve wealth or whether abundance is right for you. It doesn't consult your past to determine if you've earned prosperity. It doesn't measure your worthiness against some cosmic standard. The subconscious operates with the precision of mathematics. It simply delivers the harvest that matches the seed you've planted. This reveals a profound truth about the universe that many spiritual traditions have pointed to. The creative forces of life respond to what you impress upon them, not to what you deserve. Just as the earth doesn't withhold crops from the farmer it dislikes or give extra yield to the one it favors, the subconscious mind responds to the quality and intensity of your impression, not to moral judgments about your character. The revelation that transformed my relationship with abundance was understanding that I didn't need to be good enough to receive wealth. I didn't need to prove my worth or earn my prosperity. I simply needed to plant the right seed, the emotionally charged declaration, I am wealthy, and trust the impersonal law to bring forth its corresponding harvest. This insight liberates you from the crushing weight of unworthiness that keeps so many people from claiming their prosperity. Your journey isn't about becoming deserving of wealth. It's about aligning your consciousness with the abundance that's already your birthright. Now, I want to address the most common obstacle that prevents people from maintaining their wealth consciousness, the powerful psychological pull of external circumstances. Understanding how to overcome this challenge is essential for ensuring your prosperity declaration takes root permanently. If you've ever felt that your past doesn't determine your financial future, type, "My wealth is inevitable" in the comments. The quality of your relationship with your subconscious mind is perhaps the most overlooked dimension of wealth creation. Most people approach their subconscious carelessly, bombarding it with contradictory messages, feeding it images of lack, speaking to it with doubt and fear. And then they wonder why prosperity remains elusive. I discovered a profound shift occurred when I began treating my subconscious with the reverence it deserves, approaching it as the sacred gateway to infinite abundance, the holy mother of my destiny. This isn't mere poetic language. It's a practical recognition of the awesome creative power that resides within you. Think about it this way. If you knew with absolute certainty that a particular garden would produce exactly what you planted, no more, no less, how carefully would you select the seeds? With what attention would you tend the soil? This is precisely how you must approach your subconscious mind. Every declaration you make, every feeling you cultivate, every vision you hold is a seed planted in this sacred garden. When you declare, "I am wealthy," with reverence and conviction, when you feed your subconscious images of abundance rather than scarcity, when you nurture feelings of prosperity rather than anxiety, you're creating the ideal conditions for manifestation. The relationship becomes one of sacred partnership rather than frustrated demand. This revelation transformed not only my financial reality, but my entire approach to manifestation. I stopped treating my subconscious like a vending machine that occasionally malfunctioned and began treating it like the divine creative force it truly is. The results were nothing short of miraculous. But I don't expect you to take my word for this. The power of this approach is demonstrated in the experiences of countless ordinary people who have applied these principles and witnessed extraordinary transformations. This isn't abstract philosophy or untested theory, it's practical wisdom verified through real-life results. I think of Sarah, a single mother of 3 who had struggled financially for decades. After learning about the power of declaration, she began spending 5 minutes each night before sleep, declaring, "I am wealthy," with genuine feeling. Within 3 months, she received an unexpected inheritance, was offered a higher-paying position, and found creative solutions to long-standing financial challenges that had seemed insurmountable. Or consider Michael, a small business owner whose company was on the brink of bankruptcy. Instead of focusing on the mounting bills and dwindling accounts, he dedicated himself to maintaining wealth consciousness regardless of appearances. He declared his prosperity with unwavering conviction, even as external circumstances suggested the opposite. Within weeks, a series of unexpected opportunities appeared: a new investor, a breakthrough product idea, a strategic partnership that completely transformed his business trajectory. These aren't isolated incidents or lucky coincidences. They're demonstrations of a universal principle that operates with mathematical precision when applied correctly. The key insight that united these success stories was understanding that transformation begins with changing your relationship with your subconscious mind. Let me share the specific evening practice I developed that allows you to communicate with your subconscious in the most effective way possible. This nighttime ritual creates the perfect conditions for your wealth declaration to take root and flourish. If you're ready to transform your relationship with your subconscious mind, type "sacred partnership" in the comments. The most convincing evidence of this declaration principle comes from the transformations I've witnessed in people's lives. When they apply it consistently, I remember a man who came to my workshop several years ago, completely broken financially and emotionally. His pockets were empty, his debts were crushing, and his spirit was defeated after years of financial struggle. When I asked about his inner dialogue, he immediately revealed the source of his troubles. "I'm just unlucky with money," he told me. "Nothing ever works out for me financially." I explained how these declarations were actually creating his reality, not just describing it. They were the blueprint from which his life experiences were being constructed. The revelation that changed everything for him was understanding that by simply changing his declaration from "I am unlucky" to "I am wealthy," he could fundamentally alter the template from which his reality was being formed. This wasn't positive thinking or wishful affirmation. It was a complete identity shift at the subconscious level. Night after night, he entered sleep with this new declaration. He didn't fight his current circumstances or try to figure out how things would change. He simply planted the seed, "I am wealthy," in the fertile soil of his subconscious mind before drifting off to sleep. Within weeks, opportunities began appearing that had been invisible to him before. A debt was unexpectedly forgiven. A business connection materialized that led to new income. His entire financial trajectory shifted, not through external manipulation, but through internal transformation. I witnessed a similar awakening with a woman who had lived her entire adult life financially dependent on others. Her identity was so wrapped up in scarcity and dependence that independence seemed like a fantasy. When I worked with her to shift her declaration from "I need others to survive" to "I am secure," something remarkable happened. Instead of just repeating words, she immersed herself in the feeling of security. Each night before sleep, she would imagine walking through her own home, feeling the doorknob in her hand, experiencing the quiet satisfaction of having her own space. Within 3 weeks of this practice, an inheritance that had been tied up in legal complications for years was suddenly released. Shortly after, she found housing within her budget in a neighborhood she loved. The bridge of incidents had formed between her declaration and its physical manifestation. What fascinated me about her journey was how the outer circumstances seemed to mysteriously rearrange themselves around her new inner declaration. She didn't force anything to happen. She didn't make desperate attempts to change her situation. She simply changed her foundational identity statement from one of lack to one of security, and external reality reshaped itself accordingly. The paradigm shift here is profound. We've been taught that our declarations should match our current reality, but the creative principle works in reverse. Your declarations actually determine what reality you'll experience. When you fundamentally alter what you're declaring about yourself, you change the template from which your entire life is constructed. Let me share the counterintuitive truth I discovered about why most attempts at wealth manifestation actually reinforce poverty consciousness instead of eliminating it. If these real-life transformations resonate with your own experiences, type "reality follows declaration" in the comments. My own experience with this declaration principle became the cornerstone of my belief in its power. Years ago, I desperately wanted to visit my family in Barbados, but financially, it seemed impossible. I had no money for a ticket, no savings to draw from, and no obvious path to make the journey happen. But instead of focusing on these limitations, I decided to apply the principle I'm sharing with you now. Each night before sleep, I would close my eyes and declare with complete conviction, I am in Barbados. This wasn't wishful thinking or idle fantasy. I fully immersed myself in the sensory experience of already being there. I felt the warm Caribbean breeze on my skin. I smelled the salt air and tropical flowers. I heard the distinctive accents of my loved ones welcoming me home. I felt the sand between my toes and the joy of reunion in my heart. The remarkable thing was that I didn't try to figure out how this journey would materialize. I didn't strain to imagine possible scenarios or make desperate plans. I simply lived in the end result, the state of already being in Barbados, and trusted the creative intelligence of my subconscious to build the bridge between my current reality and that desired state. Within 3 weeks of this nightly practice, something extraordinary happened. A letter arrived from my brother containing an unexpected gift, a ticket to Barbados. The path that seemed impossible had opened effortlessly, not through my strategic planning or desperate effort, but through my unwavering declaration and the feeling reality I had established in consciousness. What makes this principle so liberating is its universality. The testimony of countless individuals from every background, education level, and circumstance confirms that this law works with mathematical precision when applied correctly. It's not reserved for the spiritually gifted, the intellectually brilliant, or the financially privileged. It's available to anyone who understands the relationship between declaration, feeling, and manifestation. The illumination that comes with this understanding is that your current financial circumstances, whether challenging or comfortable, are simply the harvest of seeds planted previously in consciousness. They represent the manifestation of past declarations, not a limitation on future possibilities. When you grasp this truth, you're freed from the prison of current appearances and empowered to create a new financial reality through conscious declaration. The inner breakthrough I experienced wasn't just about getting to Barbados. It was about discovering that reality is infinitely more malleable than I had been taught. The solid world of facts that seemed so fixed and unyielding was actually responsive to the declarations I made with conviction. This revelation completely transformed my relationship with money and with manifestation in general. Let me walk you through the specific process I used to generate genuine feeling certainty, even when external evidence contradicted my declaration. This emotional alchemy technique allows you to bypass the normal psychological barriers that prevent most people from making effective wealth declarations. If this principle of feeling it real before seeing external evidence resonates with you, type inner before outer in the comments. Now let's explore the most critical insight that separates those who successfully manifest wealth from those who remain trapped in financial struggle. The revelation that transformed my own relationship with prosperity was understanding that the law itself never fails. Only our application of it can be flawed. This distinction is crucial because it shifts your focus from questioning the principle to examining your implementation. When people tell me, I tried these manifestation techniques and nothing happened, I immediately recognize the specific obstacles that prevented their success. Understanding these blockages is just as important as knowing the manifestation process itself. It's like having the most powerful car in the world. It won't take you anywhere if you don't understand how to start the engine and release the brake. The most formidable enemy of wealth manifestation, the great chain that binds millions to perpetual financial struggle, is what Joseph Murphy called the worship of appearances. This is the hypnotic tendency to look at your current bank balance, your unpaid bills, your financial challenges, and declare, this is reality. When you bow before these appearances and accept them as the ultimate truth, you've essentially crowned them as your master. The transformative insight is recognizing that what you see in your external world today is merely the harvest of seeds planted in your consciousness yesterday. Your current financial circumstances aren't the cause of your future. They're the effect of your past declarations and feeling states. The visible world isn't the source of reality. It's merely the shadow of invisible causes operating in consciousness. Think about it this way. When you look into a mirror and see a frown, you don't try to manipulate the reflection directly. You understand that to change what you see in the mirror, you must change your own face. Yet in life, we do the opposite. We see lack reflected in our circumstances and exhaust ourselves trying to change the reflection instead of changing the consciousness that's projecting it. This revelation completely restructures your approach to creating prosperity. Instead of fighting against current appearances, struggling to change them through sheer force of will, you simply change your declaration in consciousness. You stop saying, "I see lack, therefore I am poor," and start saying, "Though I see lack, I am wealthy." This isn't denial or delusion. It's understanding the actual causal relationship between inner states and outer manifestations. The psychological breakthrough comes when you realize that circumstances have no power except the power you give them through your attention and emotional response. They are but shadows on the wall, waiting for you to turn and recognize the light of consciousness that casts them. When you make this paradigm shift, your declaration, "I am wealthy," takes on an entirely new dimension of power. Let me share the specific evening practice I developed to bypass the hypnotic influence of current appearances and plant my wealth declaration directly in the fertile soil of the subconscious mind. If you've noticed how focusing on your current circumstances tends to perpetuate them, type "breaking the spell of appearances" in the comments. The greatest paradigm shift in wealth manifestation comes when you understand that the creative sequence is exactly opposite to what most of us have been taught. Society tells us, "I'll believe it when I see it," suggesting that faith follows evidence. But the universal law operates in reverse. You'll see it when you believe it. Faith must come first. The declaration must come first. The feeling must come first. Only then will the mirror of the world reflect abundance back to you. This reverse sequence completely transforms your approach to manifestation. Most people look at their empty bank account and then try to generate faith in future prosperity. They check their unpaid bills and then attempt to feel wealthy despite the evidence. This approach is fundamentally backward, like trying to see your reflection before stepping in front of the mirror. The breakthrough insight that changed my entire financial journey was realizing that I needed to establish the inner reality of wealth with absolute conviction before expecting to see a single shred of external evidence. This isn't wishful thinking, it's understanding the actual mechanics of how reality is created. The inner always precedes the outer. The declaration always comes before the manifestation. Scripture refers to this as righteous judgment, the wisdom to judge, not according to appearances, but according to the inner truth you've chosen to establish. When you declare, "Though I see lack, I am wealthy," you're not denying current appearances. You're simply refusing to grant them authority over your consciousness. You're exercising your sovereign right to stand in the truth of abundance even while surrounded by seeming scarcity. This stance requires tremendous courage. It means looking directly at challenging financial circumstances without allowing them to dictate your inner state. It means maintaining your declaration of wealth even when every sense perception argues against it. This isn't delusion. It's understanding the causal relationship between consciousness and manifestation. The inner state always determines the outer experience, never the reverse. I discovered that this reversal of perspective creates an entirely different relationship with reality. Instead of being at the mercy of circumstances, constantly reacting to external conditions, you become the conscious author of your experience. you recognize that your declaration of "I am wealthy" isn't a description of what currently exists. It's the creative command that shapes what will exist. The enlightenment that comes with this understanding is profound. You stop seeing yourself as a victim of economic conditions, unfortunate circumstances, or bad luck. You recognize your role as the creative force behind your financial reality. The power shifts from external conditions to internal declarations, from what you see to what you choose to declare with conviction. Let me explore the psychological barriers that prevent most people from maintaining this righteous judgment. The subtle ways we surrender our creative power back to appearances even after intellectually understanding this principle. If you've experienced the struggle between what your eyes see and what your heart knows is possible, type "inner truth" over outer appearances in the comments. Even when you've mastered the art of turning from appearances and standing firm in your declaration of wealth, another enemy often rises from the depths of your consciousness, one that's been planted there since your earliest years. I'm talking about the deep programming of childhood, the subtle beliefs about money and worthiness that were impressed upon your subconscious long before you could critically examine them. Unless you identify and uproot these inner weeds, they will silently choke your declaration of wealth. You may consciously affirm, "I am wealthy," while an invisible counterforce within whispers, "Money is evil," or "Wealth is not for people like you," or "You don't deserve abundance." This creates a devastating inner conflict that prevents your declaration from taking root. The revelation that transformed my own relationship with prosperity was recognizing how my childhood conditioning had created a subterranean resistance to the very wealth I consciously desired. Like many of you, I was raised with subtle and not so subtle messages about money. I was taught that money is the root of all evil, a misquotation that should actually be, "The love of money is the root of all kinds of evil." I absorbed the idea that wealthy people were somehow morally suspect, that poverty was somehow more spiritually pure. This religious and cultural programming runs incredibly deep. Many spiritual traditions inadvertently create this inner conflict by glorifying poverty as holy and portraying wealth as corrupting. Think about the stories and parables you were told, the rich man who couldn't enter heaven, the spiritual figures who renounced material possessions, the subtle suggestion that financial struggle somehow makes you more virtuous. The illumination that changed everything for me was realizing I didn't need to choose between spiritual fulfillment and material abundance. I didn't need to feel guilty for desiring prosperity. The programming that created this false dichotomy was just that. Programming, not truth. And like any software that no longer serves its purpose, it could be identified and replaced. What makes this programming so insidious is that it operates beneath conscious awareness. You might intellectually agree that wealth is good while emotionally feeling unworthy of abundance. You might rationally desire prosperity while subconsciously sabotaging opportunities because they conflict with your hidden beliefs about what kind of person deserves wealth. The journey to wealth consciousness requires archaeological work, digging into the layers of conditioning to bring these hidden beliefs to light. Only when you clearly see the limiting programs running in your subconscious can you consciously choose to replace them with declarations that align with your true desires. I discovered that simply bringing awareness to these hidden beliefs began to dissolve their power. When I could recognize the voice that whispered, "Who are you to be wealthy?" as programming rather than truth, I could respond with my new declaration, "I am worthy of abundance. I am wealthy now." Let me share the specific reprogramming technique that allowed me to neutralize these limiting beliefs and replace them with empowering declarations that could take root without internal resistance. If you've ever felt an inner conflict between your desire for prosperity and beliefs you were taught early in life, type, releasing limiting beliefs in the comments. The journey to wealth consciousness requires honest self-examination. Take a moment right now to explore the whispers of your own mind. What do you truly believe about yourself in relation to money? Do you carry the old lies of poverty within you? Do you still secretly tell yourself, I am unworthy of abundance, or I feel guilty for wanting more, or who am I to desire wealth when so many have less? This archaeological excavation of your belief system is not merely an intellectual exercise. It's a necessary revelation that brings hidden contradictions into the light of awareness. Most people attempt to plant the seed of I am wealthy in soil that's already filled with weeds of unworthiness and limitation. Then they wonder why their declaration doesn't take root and flourish. The transformation begins when you have the courage to acknowledge these contradictory beliefs without judgment. Every time you uncover a limiting belief about money or worthiness, you diminish its power over you. These beliefs only maintain their influence when they operate in the shadows of your unconscious mind. Bringing them into the light of awareness is the first step toward neutralizing their impact. I discovered that many of my own struggles with wealth manifestation stem from beliefs I didn't even realize I was carrying. Ideas about money being corrupting, or the conviction that financial struggle somehow made me more authentic or grounded. These were the invisible chains that had been binding my prosperity consciousness, preventing my declaration from taking root. But even after you've identified and released these childhood programmings, even after you've cleared the soil of your subconscious, another subtle enemy often emerges to sabotage your progress. Doubt, the silent killer of manifestation. Doubt is that whisper in the night that says, perhaps it will not work for you. Maybe this law applies to others, but not to you. What if you're fooling yourself? This insidious voice doesn't roar like a lion. It doesn't announce itself with drama. It slips in quietly, usually in moments of vulnerability or when external circumstances seem particularly challenging. And if you entertain this doubt, if you welcome it and dwell upon it, it acts like weed killer on the tender seed of prosperity you've planted. What makes doubt so destructive is that it undermines the very foundation of effective declaration. Remember, the power of I am wealthy lies in your complete conviction, your unwavering emotional certainty. Doubt creates a state of double-mindedness, where you declare one thing but secretly question it. And as Scripture reminds us, a double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. Let not that man think he shall receive anything. I discovered that doubt wasn't something to fight against directly, that only strengthens it through attention. Instead, I developed a technique for recognizing doubt as simply another thought pattern, neither suppressing it nor identifying with it. This mindset shift allowed me to maintain my declaration of wealth even when doubts arose, rather than allowing those doubts to uproot my prosperity consciousness. Let me share the evening practice I developed that allows you to plant your wealth declaration so deeply that neither old programming nor passing doubts can disturb it. If you've experienced those moments of doubt that seem to sabotage your manifestation efforts, type "overcoming doubt" in the comments. The destructive pattern that sabotages most wealth manifestation efforts is what Joseph Murphy called the double-minded approach to creation. This is when you declare, "I am wealthy," during your evening practice, but wake up the next morning and instantly revert to statements like, "I can't afford that," or "I'm so broke." This inconsistency is like planting a seed at night and then digging it up each morning to check if it's growing. The constant disruption prevents any real progress. The revelation that transformed my relationship with prosperity was understanding that manifestation requires unwavering consistency in both word and feeling. Your declaration of wealth isn't a momentary exercise. It's a state of consciousness you must maintain throughout your daily experience. Every time you declare lack after having declared abundance, you're essentially uprooting your own creation. Think of it this way. The subconscious mind doesn't distinguish between a declaration made during meditation and one made during everyday conversation. It simply receives the dominant impression. If you spend 5 minutes declaring wealth, but then spend the rest of the day speaking, feeling, and acting from a consciousness of lack, guess which impression becomes dominant? The seed of prosperity never gets a chance to take root because you're constantly disturbing the soil with contradictory states. This insight completely revolutionized my approach to manifestation. I began monitoring my casual conversations, catching myself whenever I was about to make a statement that contradicted my declaration of wealth. I became vigilant about the emotional states I was cultivating throughout the day, not just during designated manifestation practices. This consistent alignment between my evening declarations and my daily consciousness created the stability necessary for manifestation to occur. Behind this consistency lies a deeper quality that makes manifestation inevitable: faith, not as blind belief or wishful thinking, but as unwavering loyalty to your chosen reality. True faith is the capacity to remain faithful to your declaration, even when external circumstances appear to contradict it. It's saying, "Though I see lack, I am wealthy," and meaning it with your entire being. This dimension of faith rarely gets discussed in mainstream manifestation teachings, but it's absolutely essential. Faith isn't about convincing yourself that something magical might happen. It's about standing so firmly in your chosen state that no external evidence can shake you from it. It's a form of spiritual maturity that recognizes the inner reality as more authoritative than temporary outer conditions. When I fully grasped this principle, my relationship with external circumstances completely transformed. Bills that would have previously triggered anxiety became simply passing phenomena that couldn't touch my inner state of wealth consciousness. Unexpected expenses that would have once sent me spiraling into lack mentality became merely surface ripples that couldn't disturb the deep ocean of abundance I was maintaining within. The evolutionary leap in consciousness happens when you stop treating your declaration as a technique and begin living it as an unshakable identity. When "I am wealthy" isn't just something you say, but something you embody with such conviction that no circumstance can convince you otherwise. That's when the outer world has no choice but to reorganize itself around your declaration. Let me share the specific nighttime practice that allows you to deepen this quality of faith and ensure that your wealth declaration remains stable and consistent even in the face of contradictory circumstances. If you've experienced how wavering between states of abundance and scarcity consciousness affects your manifestation results, type "unwavering consciousness" in the comments. One of the most misunderstood aspects of the manifestation process is the natural gestation period between declaring "I am wealthy" and seeing the physical evidence of that wealth in your life. Just as a child conceived in the womb is not born in the hour, your declaration conceived in the subconscious must be carried in silence until the time of birth. This natural law of development cannot be rushed or circumvented, no matter how urgently you desire immediate results. The revelation that transformed my relationship with the creative process was understanding that manifestation follows organic laws of growth. Every seed planted in consciousness unfolds according to its own perfect timing. The oak tree doesn't emerge fully formed the day after the acorn is planted. The rose doesn't bloom the moment the seed touches soil. Each creation has its appointed season, its necessary development cycle. Most people abandon their wealth declaration prematurely because they don't understand this principle of gestation. They declare, "I am wealthy" for a few days, look around for evidence, And when they don't see immediate results, they conclude this doesn't work and revert to their old consciousness of lack. This is like a farmer planting seeds and then digging them up a week later, declaring the process a failure because he doesn't see fruit yet. The dimension of manifestation that's rarely discussed is the quality of persistence that bridges the gap between declaration and demonstration. But here's the crucial insight. True persistence is not what most people think it is. Persistence is not strain. It's not anxious repetition of affirmations. It's not desperately checking for evidence or begging the universe for signs. True persistence is calm. It's steady. It's the quiet confidence of the farmer who sows the seed and then rests, knowing with absolute certainty that the soil will do its work. The farmer doesn't stand over the field day and night, wringing his hands and wondering if the seed is growing. He plants, then attends to other matters. While nature works its miracle beneath the soil, this quality of peaceful confidence completely transformed my manifestation practice. I stopped treating my declaration as a desperate plea that might or might not be answered. I began approaching it with the calm certainty of someone who understands natural law. I declared, I am wealthy, clothed it with genuine feeling, and then rested in the absolute knowing that this seed was already growing in my subconscious. Even though I couldn't yet see evidence with my physical eyes, the psychological freedom that comes with this understanding is immense. You're no longer anxiously looking for signs or trying to force manifestation through sheer willpower. You're not begging or bargaining with universal forces. You're simply aligning yourself with natural law and allowing it to operate with perfect precision. When I coach people on wealth consciousness, I often find they're exhausting themselves with frantic effort, constantly repeating affirmations, visualizing until they're mentally drained, desperately searching for evidence of change. This anxious approach actually interferes with the gestation process rather than supporting it. The art of effective manifestation is learning to rest while the seed grows. Let me walk you through the specific nighttime technique I developed to plant your wealth declaration so deeply that it continues growing even while you sleep, accelerating the manifestation process through perfect alignment with natural law. If you've experienced the challenge of waiting for your manifestations to appear, type divine timing in the comments. The most transformative insight in my journey to wealth consciousness was learning to honor every stage of the manifestation process. Many people plant the seed of their prosperity declaration and then immediately become impatient, demanding to see fruit before its natural season. They look at the empty soil where they've just planted and feel disappointed or betrayed that a mature harvest isn't already visible. This impatience reveals a fundamental misunderstanding of natural law. In the physical world, we inherently understand that an apple seed doesn't become an apple tree overnight, that a pregnancy doesn't result in birth after just a few days. Yet, in the realm of manifestation, we often demand instant results, treating universal law as if it should operate on our timeline rather than according to its own perfect unfoldment. You see, breakthrough in my own practice came when I learned to appreciate what Joseph Murphy called the early stages of creation. Instead of despising the period when nothing seems to be happening externally, I began to honor it as a sacred time when powerful forces were working beneath the surface of visible reality. I stopped demanding evidence and started trusting the process with the same confidence a mother has in the natural development of her unborn child. This shift in perspective completely transformed my emotional relationship with manifestation. Instead of the anxiety and frustration that comes from constantly checking for results, I experienced the peace that comes with understanding natural progression. I knew that my declaration, I am wealthy, was already growing in the invisible realm, and in due time, its perfect time, it would emerge into visible form. Now let me share what I consider the most profound revelation in my entire wealth consciousness journey. True wealth has nothing to do with money. True wealth is faithfulness to the state you've assumed, unwavering loyalty to your declaration, "I am wealthy," regardless of external circumstances. This understanding completely inverts the conventional relationship with prosperity. Most people think of wealth as faithfulness to money itself, the accumulation and preservation of external resources. But from the perspective of consciousness, wealth is actually faithfulness to the inner state of abundance. It's maintaining your declaration with unwavering conviction, even when appearances suggest otherwise. It's remaining loyal to your chosen reality, despite temporary contradictions in the outer world. This revelation liberated me from the emotional roller coaster that comes with attaching your sense of wealth to fluctuating external conditions. I discovered that when I remained faithful to my declaration, when I maintained the consciousness of abundance regardless of my bank balance, the external eventually had no choice but to conform to my inner state. Think of it this way: wealth is not a destination you reach when you have a certain amount of money. Wealth is the state of consciousness you cultivate right now through your faithful declaration. That state, when consistently maintained, eventually clothes itself in physical form as money, opportunities, and resources. But the physical manifestation is the effect, not the cause, of true wealth. Let me walk you through the precise evening practice that integrates all these principles, allowing you to plant your prosperity declaration in the most fertile soil of consciousness while bypassing all the common obstacles we've discussed. If you're beginning to recognize that wealth is primarily a state of consciousness rather than an external condition, type "consciousness precedes manifestation" in the comments. One of the most powerful testimonials to this principle came from a client I worked with several years ago, a businessman who had just experienced what most would consider a devastating financial collapse. His company had failed, his assets were seized, and overnight he found himself facing what appeared to be complete financial ruin. Friends and family advised him to declare bankruptcy, to accept defeat, to face reality. But this man understood something profound about the creative power of declaration. While others were defining him by his current circumstances, he refused to accept that identity. In the midst of apparent financial devastation, he maintained an unwavering declaration: "I am still wealthy," not as wishful thinking or denial, but as a profound recognition that his true wealth existed in consciousness rather than in temporary external conditions. What fascinated me about his journey was how this unwavering declaration completely transformed his response to adversity. Instead of collapsing into victim mentality or bitter resentment, he maintained the dignity, creativity, and resourcefulness of someone who knows themselves to be truly prosperous. He spoke, walked, and made decisions from the consciousness of abundance rather than the consciousness of loss. Within months, a remarkable transformation unfolded. New opportunities emerged that would have been invisible to someone operating from a consciousness of poverty. Resources appeared from unexpected sources. His business rebirth surpassed his previous success, not because of lucky breaks, but because he had maintained the inner identity that magnetized these external manifestations. The revelation here runs counter to conventional wisdom. Most people believe you must first recover financially before you can truthfully declare, "I am wealthy." But this reverses the creative sequence. The declaration must come first and be maintained through apparent adversity for the external recovery to manifest. Those who maintain wealth consciousness, even through apparent loss, not only recover quickly, but often exceed their previous prosperity. This brings us to perhaps the most confronting question in the entire wealth consciousness journey. To what are you faithful today? Most people never honestly examine this question, yet it determines the entire trajectory of their financial life. Are you faithful to poverty, rehearsing it in your mind, bowing to it in your speech, confessing it in your fears? Or are you faithful to wealth, declaring it, feeling it, abiding in it, though the outer world denies it? This question cuts through intellectual understanding straight to the heart of manifestation. Whatever you are truly faithful to, whatever state you consistently honor with your attention, emotion, and declaration, will inevitably clothe itself in your physical world. This isn't metaphysical speculation. It's the precise mechanics of how consciousness creates reality. The awakening occurs when you realize that your financial circumstances aren't random or accidental. They're the direct manifestation of what you've been loyal to in consciousness. If lack persists in your experience, it's because you've been faithful to the state of lack, declaring it, feeling it, expecting it, rehearsing it. If abundance flows freely, it's because you've been faithful to the state of abundance. Now I want to share the specific nighttime ritual that integrates all these principles into one powerful practice, allowing you to plant your wealth declaration in the most fertile soil of consciousness while bypassing all the common obstacles we've discussed. If you're beginning to recognize how your financial reality reflects what you've been loyal to in consciousness, type "My declaration shapes my reality" in the comments. Now, I want to share what I consider the most revolutionary insight in the entire manifestation process, one that completely transformed my relationship with prosperity. There is a profound difference between thinking of wealth and thinking from wealth. Most people spend their lives thinking of wealth, observing it from a distance, contemplating it, wishing for it, imagining what it would be like to possess it someday. This perspective keeps them forever on the outside looking in. The dimensional shift occurs when you move from thinking of wealth to thinking from wealth. This isn't a minor semantic distinction, it's the difference between perpetual wanting and actually experiencing. When you think of wealth, you're like a spectator watching a banquet through a window. You can see the abundance, but you remain separate from it. When you think from wealth, you've walked through the door, taken your seat at the table, and begun to enjoy the feast as if it were already yours. This shift in perspective creates a complete identity transformation. Instead of being someone who desires wealth, you become someone who experiences wealth, right now, in consciousness, before a single external condition has changed. Your thoughts, feelings, and expectations all flow from this new center of being rather than reaching toward it from a place of separation. I discovered this principle through direct experience when working with a client who had struggled with financial limitation for decades. Despite years of positive affirmations and visualization, nothing had substantially changed in her outer circumstances. When I explored her approach, I realized she was firmly positioned outside her desired state, admiring wealth from afar rather than embodying it internally. The breakthrough came when I guided her to step through the invisible door into complete identification with prosperity consciousness. Instead of visualizing wealth as a future possibility, she began thinking, feeling, and responding from the state of already being wealthy. She made decisions as a wealthy person would make them. She carried herself with the natural dignity of someone who knows abundance is their birthright. She felt the inner security that comes with prosperity, regardless of her bank balance. Within weeks, opportunities began presenting themselves that had been invisible to her before. Resources appeared from unexpected sources. Her entire financial landscape began shifting, not through external manipulation, but through this fundamental repositioning of consciousness. What makes this approach so powerful is that when you fully inhabit a state in consciousness, external reality has no choice but to conform to your new identity. Just as an actor who completely embodies a character finds that The audience cannot help but see them as that character. When you fully embody wealth consciousness, the world cannot help but respond to you as a wealthy person. The outer must eventually mirror the inner when the inner is maintained with unwavering conviction. Let me share the specific methodologies I've developed to help you make this critical transition from thinking of wealth to thinking from wealth. Practical techniques that allow you to step through that invisible door and fully inhabit prosperity consciousness regardless of external circumstances. If you've noticed how differently you think, feel, and act when you're viewing life from a position of abundance versus scarcity, type "I'm stepping through the door" in the comments. Now I want to share what I believe is the master key to effective wealth consciousness. The element that determines whether your declaration, "I am wealthy," becomes a transformative force or remains an empty phrase. That essential element is feeling. Feeling is the bridge that carries your declaration from the conscious mind into the fertile soil of the subconscious, where all manifestation begins. Think about this profound truth. Your subconscious mind doesn't actually respond to your words at all. It responds to the feeling state that accompanies those words. If you declare, "I am wealthy," while simultaneously feeling the anxiety of lack, the embarrassment of financial struggle, or the fear of unpaid bills, your subconscious receives contradictory signals. The words say abundance, but the feeling transmits scarcity. In this inner conflict, feeling always wins. This insight illuminates why so many affirmations and declarations fail to produce results. When your words and feelings are misaligned, you're essentially sending mixed messages to the creative center of your being. It's like pressing the accelerator and brake pedals simultaneously in your car. The opposing forces cancel each other out, leaving you stationary despite all your effort. The breakthrough in my manifestation journey came when I discovered how to emotionally inhabit the state of wealth while making my declaration. Rather than mechanically repeating phrases, I learned to immerse myself completely in the feeling reality of prosperity. I felt the quiet dignity that comes with financial freedom. I experienced the inner security of knowing abundance is my natural state. I embodied the generosity, confidence, and ease that characterize true wealth. Consciousness. Through extensive experimentation, I discovered there's an optimal time and state for planting this emotionally charged declaration in the subconscious mind. The ancient wisdom traditions have always known what modern neuroscience now confirms. The mind is most receptive to impression during the twilight state between wakefulness and sleep. Joseph Murphy called this special condition the state akin to sleep, that drowsy receptive period when the analytical mind relaxes its grip and the subconscious lies open and receptive. In the silence of midnight, as your body grows heavy and your mind drifts towards slumber, the critical faculties that normally guard the subconscious begin to lower their defenses. This sacred moment provides a direct pathway to the creative center of your being. It's in this twilight state that your declaration, "I am wealthy," whispered with genuine feeling, can sink effortlessly into the soil of the subconscious like a seed returning to its native ground. The revelation that transformed my entire approach to manifestation was understanding that this drowsy state isn't merely convenient. It's essential for bypassing the resistance of the analytical mind. When you declare wealth in full waking consciousness, the rational mind often interrupts with objections based on current appearances. But in the state akin to sleep, these objections fall silent, allowing your declaration to reach the creative center unopposed. Let me walk you through the exact process I developed for making your wealth declaration in this optimal state. The precise sequence that plants your prosperity consciousness so deeply that it continues growing even while you sleep. If you've noticed how your mind becomes more receptive and open as you drift towards sleep, type "the twilight zone of creation" in the comments. As we come to the end of this exploration of the one declaration that transformed my financial reality, I want to thank you for joining me on this journey. If these principles of wealth consciousness have resonated with you, if you've recognized how your declarations shape your reality, I'd love to continue sharing these transformative insights with you. Subscribe to this channel if you're ready to delve deeper into these principles of conscious creation. Each week, I share practical techniques that build upon what we've discussed today, providing you with a complete system for manifesting not just financial abundance, but success in every dimension of your life. I'd love to know if today's message found you at exactly the right moment. If something in this video spoke directly to your situation or sparked an aha moment, type "This message found me" in the comments below. Your story matters to me, and I read every comment personally. If you found value in what we've explored today, consider leaving a like on this video. It helps others discover these principles that have transformed thousands of lives, including my own. I've created a follow-up video that explores how to apply this wealth declaration specifically to dissolving debt and creating multiple streams of income. If you're ready to take the next step in your prosperity journey, click on the video appearing now and continue this transformation with me there. The principles we'll explore build perfectly on what you've learned today, creating a complete system for financial liberation. Remember, the one sentence that created my billions is now in your hands. Use it wisely, use it consistently, and watch as your inner declaration reshapes your outer reality.